Hey folks, I just want to warn you, this is a rather long video, longer than I normally make. I'm really geeking out here in depth on this 1993 Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker box. I have indexed this video, so if you want to skip ahead to certain parts, you can use the index to do that. I also want to encourage you though to stay tuned to the end of this video where I have some bonus material where I talk to a Weber insider who developed this very box way back when. You'll be interested to hear some of his color commentary on how it all went down. Hey, it's Chris Allingham with the Virtual Weber Bullet. Today I have something very special to show you. Something I've been meaning to show you for a long time and just have never gotten around to it. I got it 6 years ago and I stuck it in a cabinet in my garage. Out of sight, out of mind. I never got around to making a video about this, but today I'm going to do it and I'm going to show it to you today. This is a 1994, still in the box, Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker in the original 8-sided box that Weber used to sell these in. You may have never seen this before, or some of you might be observant and maybe you've noticed this packaging in some of the pictures that float around of George Stephen dressed up as I guess as like a conductor in front of a bunch of Weber products and packaging. And you can see in the upper right corner, there's some funny shaped boxes up there with a small Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker on top, the 14-inch cooker. This is that box that you see in that advertisement. Having seen that photo and having heard of at least one other person that has a cooker in the original box like this, it's something that I kind of tucked away in the back of my mind and wanted to get my hands on at some point in time. As you know, if you watch shows like American Pickers or Pawn Stars, oftentimes the packaging of a product can be more valuable than the product itself. You know, I would venture to say that you do not have the box that your Smoky Mountain Cooker came in. And it's unusual for these things to stick around, and especially these old 8-sided boxes. They're very unique, I think. It demonstrates a level of packaging design that you don't really see anymore. In fact, when I bought my smoker in 1997, just 3 years after this one, Weber had transitioned to a square, boring, brown box. So they weren't doing these interesting 8-sided boxes anymore. And that's what makes them so unique. And what got me so excited about wanting to have something like this, a little piece of Weber history that really is not found anywhere anymore. Now we're going to take a close look at this box in just a moment and we'll unbox it and see what's inside. We'll find out whether it's actually unused or not. I'm not totally sure. We'll do that in a moment. But let me tell you quickly how I got my hands on this smoker. So back in 2018, a member of my discussion forum named Bob Correll, Bob, rest in peace, he passed away a couple years ago. He was a great member of our discussion forum community. Bob posted a message on my discussion forum. The title was Vintage Wood Handle 18.5-inch Weber Smokey Mountain, new in box, St. Louis, Craigslist, $100. And he wrote, if it was closer, I'd try for it. And he put a link to the Craigslist listing. And I looked that up and I saw the picture of it and like the top of my head blew off that it was this old 8-sided original box with a cooker inside. I called the owner, I introduced myself, I told her who I was and what I did, that I had a Weber Smokey Mountain website, that I had been looking for this kind of a cooker for a long time, that I felt the packaging was probably more valuable than the cooker itself, to be honest, and that I was the right person to own this cooker. I had to have it. She wanted $100 for it. To seal the deal, to nail it down, to lock it down, to prevent her from accepting any other offers, which I don't think she'd had any at that point, I offered her $500 for this cooker and box. She quickly accepted. But then the question was, how am I going to get this to me in California? So I replied to Bob, I said, I think I just bought this. Bob, is it so far that you couldn't pick it up for me? And he replied and said, "It can be done if you're serious." So Bob and his wife were kind enough to go out to the owner's home. They lived in a town called Defiance, Missouri. He and his wife drove out there, met this very nice couple that was selling this grill, put it in his car, brought it back to his house, packed it up in a FedEx box, and shipped it to me in California. The shipping was supposed to be about $155, but FedEx screwed up. They left it sitting in the store for a couple of days without actually shipping it out. And when we brought that to their attention, they shipped it and we got that shipping done for no charge. So out the door, delivered to my house, it was a flat $500. Now, I don't know whether that's a fair price or not. I know it's the price that I felt like I needed to pay in order to lock this down. Do you think I paid too much? I don't care what you think, honestly. I'm happy with what I paid for it, but if you think I paid too much, say so in the comments below. If you think I paid about the right price, say so in the comments below. If you think it's worth more than $500, say so in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what people think about it, whether you think that the price I paid 6 years ago, $500, for a 1994 smoker in the original box was worth it or not. Let me tell you briefly about the couple who sold this to me. The wife bought this for her husband as a Christmas gift. I have the original receipt. She provided this to me. She bought this at a place that's called Leilu Metal Craft and Patio Store. They're located in a place called Dupree, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Dupree, Missouri. It's a suburb of St. Louis. That store had been there for like 40 or 50 years. They sold patio furniture, they sold grills. I was able to find some old ads where they were selling Big Green Egg. They were selling Hasty Baked grills. I could not find a Weber grill ad, but we know they sold Weber products there. Patio furniture. They also sold some fireplaces, I guess, in the wintertime. And then they had some kind of a metal crafting business on the lower level, probably wrought iron or something to that effect. Had been there for a long, long time, was a well-established business in the community. And my understanding is correct, they went out of business sometime in 2011, so no longer there. This woman bought the grill as a Christmas gift on December 21st, 1994. She paid $190 for the cooker. She paid $11.38 for tax, a total of $201.83. Now, my understanding is that she gave this to her husband as a Christmas present. I imagine that Christmas in Defiance, Missouri is cold. Maybe it's snowy. I don't know much about the weather in Defiance, Missouri, but in any event, it was given at Christmas time. I'm sure it was greatly appreciated, but then apparently it went down to the basement, and I don't know if it ever came back out again. We'll get into this and we'll see whether we can figure out whether or not it's ever been put together or whether it's even been used. It was described as new in box, but who really knows? And I have not unpacked this actually in the last 6 years. I literally received it from Bob via FedEx, and I took it out of the FedEx box. I looked at the outside box. I was very pleased with what I saw, and I put it into a cabinet, and it's been there ever since. So you and I will together take a look at what's inside this box. So let's do a quick walk around on the outside of this box, and then we'll delve inside. So here's the money shot. This is the big full color label on a plain brown craft box. This is the very same label that was on my 1997 Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. They just simplified the box in later years and put it on a rectangular box. But you can see this is what I call the log cabin family label. You've got mom sitting there barefoot for some reason on the porch of the family's cabin. Mom is shucking corn for some reason. And there's little, I don't know, let's call him Jimmy, whatever. Jimmy's been out fishing. He got a couple of fish, showing it to Dad. Dad looks an awful lot like, what's the name of that guy that was on Tim the Toolman's show? Home Improvement. Looks kind of like that guy. He's got the fishing pole out there, and they got the net up there, and they got some horns back there. I don't know where that came from. just a bountiful table of stuff going on there. And I guess little Jimmy wants to probably smoke up those fish. And off to the side here, we've got a big glamour shot of the Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. And off to the side here, we have the marketing information. So this is a really cool old early 1980s looking special logo that they had for Smokey Mountain Cooker, all lowercase letters. Delicious food, first time, every time. It's the first smoker rugged enough to deserve the Weber name, and the first smoker ever to carry a full 5-year limited warranty. Built to give year after durable year of great food. Heavy steel sealed in porcelain enamel, inside and out. No rusting, no burning. Smokes, roasts, steams, grills. It's the smoke cooker you've seen on TV. The smoker that just won't quit. And if you didn't know that the Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker had been on TV, I'll put a link down below where you can find a link to the only Weber TV commercial that I've ever come across. I've got it on video. You can check that out. And down here, there's a sticker applied on top of the label that says free cover inside the carton. So covers are included then, and covers are included now. On this same side, you've also got the UPC code for the cooker. And on this side, you have another bigger version of that Smokey Mountain Cooker logo with the model number 2890. Now, very astute students of the Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker will know that this used to be known as the 2880. When they transitioned somewhere in the 90s, they started using 2890 as the model number, and then eventually that changed to subsequent numbers. If you look at my article about Weber Smokey Mountain history, you can learn about the progression of those model numbers over the years. On this side of the box, we have a this side up and a fragile symbol, and we've got the Weber logo with their tagline at the time, the one, the only. If you go back to this side of the box, we have a repeat of that same information. We have the fragile symbol, the this side up, and the Weber logo. Now coming around the back, we have a bunch of marketing information. So this would help you sell this product in the store as it sits in the box. In case there's no one there to really tell you about the cooker, this box will sell it to you. This is something that got lost on subsequent packages. I think it's a really cool feature. They had 3 sides available here for this kind of information, and so they used it to their advantage and included information here on how you could use the Smokey Mountain Cooker. So starting on this side, we have what appears to be poultry or turkey, chicken, juicier meats, hams, turkeys, game, roast, ribs, all more flavorful than you've ever tasted before. Isn't that true? Down here, we have a stylized number 5, amazing 5-year limited warranty. It's the first smoker rugged enough to carry the Weber name and the first to ever carry a 5-year limited warranty. It's the smoker that just won't quit. Again, with that model number 2890. On the middle panel, we have a fish. Smoke your own fish. Apparently they thought the smoking fish would be a very popular use for this cooker. I don't know that that's ever really been true. I mean, people do, but I think a pig would have been a better choice here. Turn your catch, store-bought or fresh caught, into rich, almost sweet, flavored delicacies. It's easy. And down below, we have a diagram of the cooker. A cutaway diagram of the cooker. So we get to see inside without even opening the box up. We get to see what we're getting inside. We can see that we have a top level with a turkey, a middle level with a ham, and we have our charcoal ring at the bottom. And you'll notice that's the old charcoal ring with only a single row of air perforations in it. And these are labeled A through I. And if we come to this side, we'll skip, well, let's cover the top one. We have a lobster. We're getting fancy. Steams, grills, roasts too. The versatile Smokey Mountain Cooker lets you do more. Steam a whole clam bake, barbecue to get genuine Weber flavors, try sausage or cheese, or you name it. And then here's the key for those items on the cutaway diagram. Sturdy, solid teak handle. So back in the original days, we were using teak as our handle. Famous Weber air vent system gives you perfect results every time. No rusting, no staining, no burning. Triple nickel plated grills. When they used to do that back in the day. Porcelain enamel water pan with huge capacity, massive 1 gallon capacity. Easy access door, heavy duty charcoal grill and fire ring. Enclosed bottom means no stray hot sparks. So this package does a great job of communicating what this product is all about. It's a brand new product for Weber, a new category for Weber. Really smart, I think, to use the package to act as a marketing piece. And then finally on top, we have the Weber logo again, the one and only. This end up with the fragile symbol. On this side, we have the Transit Association certification for the packaging. And then we have the shipping label. And as you can see, shipped to Leilu Metalcraft, 13200 Manchester in St. Louis, Missouri, which later became known as De Perez, I guess. The one thing that we can say about the packaging is that, yes, this may have been tested and certified, but the packaging was not that great back in these days. It was not as protective as it could have been or should have been. Weber made a great effort when they reintroduced new cookers in, excuse me, not reintroduced, but when they introduced the 22-inch cooker in 2009, and they redid the 18.5-inch cooker in 2009. They went to a lot of effort to re-engineer the packaging to make it much more protective. It was very common back in these days to have damage to the edge of the lid, dents, because the parts were very close to the outside edge of the box. There was not a lot of protection there. And I won't be surprised if we see some damage in this package, because I do see there are some areas of impact here on the box, some indentation in this zone. I won't be surprised if we see some kind of a damage in here, but I don't know. We will find out together. And in case you're curious, this box measures 21 inches across, and it measures 30 inches tall. As for the shipping weight of this box, I don't have a scale capable of weighing this box. I do know that the FedEx package, including this box, was 56.4 pounds. I also know that my 1997 Smoky Mountain Cooker weighed 48 pounds in its box, and that box is a little bit smaller than this one. So my guess is that this is probably about a 50-pound box as you see it here. And I forgot to mention, you'll also notice that there are some handy handholds on this box, one on each side. So it makes carrying this box much easier, moving it around. That's something that was lost in later versions of Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker packaging. Now I'm going to wear some gloves as I handle this box and the parts, not because I'm being precious about the box or the contents, but because I have moved this box a couple of times and my hands itched when I did that. There's something on this box that maybe I have a slight allergy to. I do think there's also maybe some areas of maybe a little bit of mildew or mold. So just to keep myself feeling good, I'm gonna wear some gloves as I do this. So first off, I think it's interesting how this top is fabricated. These two flaps are sort of like wings, but then this middle part is folded. It's almost like origami here, the way that it's put together and folded down. Folded on this side with a loose flap here, and then folded on this side with actually two connection points here. Now I've rotated the box 90 degrees so I can get into it more easily and show it to the camera. But I wanted to show you here, if you look at the cardboard material, you can see these spots. This is somewhat I was referring to as what I think may be some mildew of some type. And I'm just realizing that I took my glove off to operate the camera and I'm touching the box, so that's not such a great deal for me. The other thing I'm realizing is this box does not want to stay open in a way that I can show you how it's unpacked, because these things want to flop back in. They don't just fold down to the side and stay open. So I'm going to try to figure out what to do here in that regard. Maybe I will just open this up layer by layer and hold this back so you can see what's happening inside. So here I've removed that top layer of cardboard that you just saw inside the box. You can get a better sense of some of the staining or mildew that I think is on this box. You can also see some perforations here where the lid, when it was closed and stapled shut, those staples penetrated this piece of cardboard also. There's 2 holes here. If I rotate this around this way, you can see that there's 2 holes here as well. So this, I guess, also served not just to protect what was below it, but it also provided some structural support to the lid, or the flaps of the lid, when they were closed and stapled down. So folding back these lid flaps, you can see inside, this is the charcoal bowl that we're looking into, with the original vinyl cover. This would be the old school heavy duty vinyl cover, white Weber logo in the original package, taped and unopened. You don't see that very often. And looking down inside, the first thing I notice is that we do have a spot of damage right here on the edge of the charcoal bowl. This is probably a point of impact inside the box, and the bowl does look a little bit out of round to me. It looks kind of flat in this dimension right here a little bit, which is not uncommon in bowls of this era. And as you may know, even today we get bowls that are a bit out of round. So we do have that condition with this bowl as well. So now I've got the bowl out of the box, and that reveals a few more things. Generally, the outside of the bowl is in great condition. If I do kind of a close-up of the porcelain finish, you can see this sort of stippled effect. This is what is sometimes referred to as orange peel. It's just kind of a function of how these grills were sprayed and porcelain enameled back in those days. Unlike the newer cookers, where they have a very smooth, glassy finish, oftentimes they have this sort of stippled or pebbled finish. So this is just, it's just what it is from how they did it in these days. You can also see here that I have got a flattened damper tab, which is not uncommon. Don't know whether that would have happened during original shipping or whether to my house. It has to do with how these are packed. They're not really protected very well, unlike today. This side also has a flattened damper tab, and this side has 2 flattened damper tabs. So this, of course, is impetus for Weber to try to improve the packaging in later years, more recent years, to prevent things like this from happening. You can also see here that we have a date code. I'll try to get this in focus. A date code of P. P stands for 1993. So even though the purchaser of this grill bought it in December of 1994, it was built in the 1993 model year. So they must have had this sitting around at Leilu Metalworks and patio furniture for some time. Or maybe Weber had excess inventory, who knows. But this is a 1993 grill, sold in 1994. P is the last year of the single-digit date codes for Weber. They started with A, they ended in P, 1993. Then they went to the 2-digit code using the key phrase authorized, A being 1 and D being 0. If you want to learn more about how to decipher date codes, I've got a very detailed article about that on my website. I'll put a link down below. And while it's unfortunate that these tabs are bent and I could fix them, I don't think I'm going to fix them. I don't have any reason to because I don't intend to use this smoker. I'll just leave them as they are. And through the magic of video time travel, I can show you a clip from later in the afternoon when I repackaged this cooker, reboxed it. You can see why these damper tabs are bent. They just smash right up against the cardboard separator between the charcoal bowl and the middle cooking section. Those damper tabs were destined to be bent because of the way Weber designed this packaging. This does not happen in new Smoky Mountain cookers today because there's a separation, a space separation between the damper and the packaging. And now out of the box, here's a closer view of this dent in the edge of the rim of the charcoal bowl. You can see that it's fairly indented and the finish is missing. I'm just going to touch that. Yeah, the finish has cracked off there. It's not that it was not finished. It has been impacted and that piece of finish has come off. Probably somewhere in the bottom of the box. And just as a point of comparison, here's the lid from a fairly recent Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. You can see how this finish is just glass-like. I mean, almost looks like a mirror when I get that close to it. But it does not have the stippled effect or the orange peel effect that you see in this older Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. And finally, something I've noticed on the bottom of this bowl that I've never seen before on a Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. I see 3 little points of contact here on this bowl. There's one of them right here. I'll point to it right there. There's one right here. And there's another one over on this side right here. And it makes me think that perhaps when they were firing these back in the day, they actually set them upright on 3 points. You don't see these kind of indentations, little imperfections in the finish. Here's a close-up. You don't see these little imperfections in more recent Smoky Mountain cookers. Here's a current charcoal bowl from a Smoky Mountain cooker. And if we go in here on the bottom, you'll see that again, the bottom is perfectly glassy and there are no little points of contact on here at all. So that makes me think that the way that they fired these back in the day is different than the way they did them in later years. They must have had this bowl sitting on some kind of a 3-pointed stand as they ran it through the firing process. And on the more recent ones, they probably hung them up in such a way that they didn't have any points of contact. The only problem with this, of course, would be that over time, as you use this cooker and this finish heats up and cools down, this may be a point where a crack would develop in the finish and then rust might set in at these points right here. So my guess is that that's why they stopped doing that in later years. Okay, so enough nerding out on the charcoal bowl. Let's take a look inside here a little more deeply. You can see here that there is this protective piece that's supposed to separate the charcoal bowl from the parts below, but you can see that it actually ripped in 2 places on the left and the right. This is one of the flaws in this packaging. In fact, it's starting to rip right there at 12 o'clock. It's ripped down here a little bit at 7 or 8 o'clock, bottom left corner. So I will remove this piece and we'll take a look at what's going on down below. So now I've got that protective piece out here on top just to take a look, and you can see once again more signs of mildew on this cardboard. Trying not to get that on my hands in case that's what's making my hands itch. I have kept it together. It has not yet completely fallen apart, but it is very, very close. I'm going to do my best to keep that from getting any worse than it already is. So now we've got the hardware box sitting inside the middle cooking section. I'm going to pull that out. We'll take a look at what's in there. couple of pieces of newspaper stuffed in on the ends. I don't know whether those are original or not, but I'll pull them out and we'll take a look. So this is from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, section C7. I don't have to go any further than this to see that right here, this is dated July 6, 2018. So this is a piece of paper that my friend Bob Carell stuffed in on either end of the hardware box to try to keep it in place. So it appears that he himself opened this up, taken out the charcoal bowl to get down to this level in order to stuff this in there. So that's okay with me, but that's news to me. I didn't know that he did that. So here's the hardware box, and as you can see, more signs of mildew on this box. This must have been a somewhat damp basement that this lived in for all those years. Open up the box. We find the legs. Well, first we find the access door still wrapped in its original paper. The paper bag. I think we all know what an access door looks like. I'm not gonna pull this out for fear of damaging this bag, but this does have the old round plastic handle, door handle, which I'll show you a photo of here off of my 1997 Smoky Mountain Cooker. This is the aluminum door, the original door without the catches on it that allow you to fold the door open like you can do on the new Smoky Mountain Cooker. So we have the manual. This manual is available for download on my website if you want to take a look at this. This is a full-color brochure, features the cabin family. You will notice, though, it's a little different. Mom is now doing some needlepoint or something here on the porch, and Dad's the one holding the fish, and the son is looking on lovingly. This is revision 3 of 1988. The 1981 date is the first date of the Smoky Mountain Cooker, so that's the first date that this cooker came out at, the date that this booklet came out, but then they revised it several times over the years. And no revisions, I guess, between 1988 and 1993 when this cooker was built. The part number for this manual is SFC 10801. In fact, that picture, by the way, is the original version of the Smoky Mountain Cooker, where you notice has a smooth steel door, and the cooking grates are much closer together. You see where the screws are? They realized at some point that those grates were too close together, and they moved the bottom grate down a little bit further to give more clearance space between the top grate and the bottom grate. Also, the old vent dampers with the embossed little lines between the holes of the vent dampers. This is also a setup sheet here that assembly instructions that are also available on the Virtual Weber Bullet. I'll put a link to that if you're interested in this document as well. And then it looks like a registration card, so we can, you know you're old if you remember things like this where you had a card that gave you an opportunity to indicate to a manufacturer all of your various interests in life. I don't think you had to, maybe it depends on state. You didn't have to send these in order to have your warranty be fulfilled, but they sure encouraged it. And they want your name, your address, date of purchase, your phone number, what product you purchased, how much you paid for it. Was this outdoor barbecue a gift or the first one, or what's your age, your sex, all kinds of demographic questions about you, birth dates, how many people in your home, how much money do you make, how educated are you, what credit cards do you use, and it goes on to the back as well with all the various hobbies and interests that you have. And now they know everything they want to ever know about you, and you just basically fold that up, and no postage necessary, send that back to Weber. And of course nowadays this is all done by Google, right? They just know everything there is to know about you, but this is how we used to do it back in the Stone Age, so that's kind of a cool item in there. And then inside the box, we have all the hardware necessary to put this together. We have the 3 legs,
the aluminum legs, so they're the more recent legs, not the original steel. We have, which is what you'd expect for a 1993 grill. This would have been the appropriate leg for that time. You have the 4 grill straps inside, showing a little indication of rust on that one right there. And then we have the bag of hardware, the nuts and the bolts. And this bag is unopened. So this, I think, is pretty solid proof. Besides just the condition of things so far, this grill was never ever assembled. So Merry Christmas. Congratulations, you got a Weber smoker. Let's store it in the basement, and then either we forgot about it or we decided that no, this is a gift that I appreciate you giving me, but it's not a gift that I really wanted. And so it sat down in the basement for all those years from Christmas 94 to 2018, and it found its way out to California. So setting aside the hardware parts box, let's look back down into the box, and we see at the bottom, we're looking down through the middle cooking section, and we see the charcoal ring is sitting on top of a protected piece of cardboard that goes all around the top of the lid. And the most thing that's prominent to me and most beautiful is there's that beautiful teak handle that Weber used to use on these grills. I miss wooden handles so much, but these were really nice quality handles back in the day, in this era. By the time I got my cooker in 97, they had switched to, I think, a less expensive material, but that's a great looking handle right there, all original. So here's the charcoal ring, same design as today. This is not the really old one that had a single row of perforations. I mean, remember back down to this image here, you see the oldest charcoal ring only had 1 row of holes, but this has 2. This is the more modern, up-to-date version. This is in great shape. There's no damage or loss of porcelain anywhere, and it looks like it's round as we'd expect. So I've pulled the middle cooking section out of the box, and one of the things you see here in the finish also is that stippled or orange peel finish as well on this part. There are some unfortunate things about this though. Here's one of them. There's a place where some finish is missing. There is a slight indentation here as well, but there's a much more significant one over here on this side. There's quite an indentation right here. Loss of finish across this area as well. I'm not going to scrub with my finger, but clearly an impact point right, get my camera focused right, my indentation or impact point right there. So again, no way for me to know whether or not that happened during shipping to the dealer, whether that happened at the owner's home, whether that happened when it was shipped out to me. Although I can tell you honestly that I guess I would retract the latter, because the FedEx shipping box came in great shape. There was no impact to that box. And given some of the impact points that we saw on this box, my guess is that maybe this happened in shipping to the dealer. It is not uncommon for this era. I remember back when I started the virtual Weber bulletin board back in 98 and through those first 10 years or so, people did get a lot of damaged parts, and Weber was replacing a lot of these upon request. So, you know, did this get damaged during shipping and they got it home, Merry Christmas, opened the box, and they went, oh crap, look at this, we'll have to deal with this in the springtime, and they never did, or it just discouraged them, or who knows what the story is. I really don't know. Looking at this back side, there is some signs. Again, these are little spots of mold, mildew on the surface here. I'm going to try not to disturb that very much. Other than those indentations though, this is in good shape. I mean, it's not quite in round. I can just see here that the way it comes in, I was going to say at least it's in round, but I don't really think it is in round, at least not in that spot, and certainly not at this edge right here. I don't know if the lid would actually fit on top of that, to be honest. I'm not going to bother trying, but There's the middle cooking section for this grill. And having set the middle section aside, now looking back into the box, you can see more clearly this piece of cardboard that's got all these jig-jag edges on it, intended to act as a separator between the middle cooking section and the lid. And you see that piece of cardboard is kind of cattywampus. It's higher on the left than on the right. This is one of the flaws of this kind of packaging and why it wasn't as protective as it should have been. One thing you'll notice though is that my damper is in good shape. Unlike the ones on the bowl, this damper had nothing that could impact it, and so it's in good shape. The tabs are straight. And here's the lid with that protective piece of cardboard on it. And if we look at the bottom right side, we see a whole bunch more of that mildew material here all around this cardboard. So this box was certainly in a place where there was some moisture issues for sure. Just looking at the lid itself, we see a bunch of dust, some little cardboard debris, little bits of white fuzz of some kind, but as of yet, no damage. But let's take the cardboard off and see what we find. I just want to comment how interesting it is that you can take a flat, square piece of cardboard and you can cut it in such a way that you get a bunch of cone shapes that will pop up when you push it over a domed surface and create a piece of packaging like this. It's pretty ingenious, if you ask me. Anyway, back to the lid. So here's a shot of the lid. From what I can tell, it's in pretty good shape. I don't see any issues with the edge of the lid. Just because it was positioned at the bottom of the box, it was not prone to being hit by anything. Here's the P on the damper, same as the bowl, which you'd expect. A little bit of discoloration around the vent holes there. Here's that beautiful handle. I think honestly, you know what? I'm going to retract my earlier comment about teak. This looks very much like the handle that I had on my 97 cooker. I don't think this is teak actually. Even though the package label says teak handle, I think that they had switched to this less expensive material. I mean, you tell me in the comments below. I don't think that's teak. And I can show you what I think is a teak handle. Here's a photo of a teak handle. I don't think this is that at all. Be that as it may, it's a wooden handle. Some kind of a piece of junk right there that's not in the finish. Yeah, this lid is in great shape. There's no dents, no deformations in it at all. Let's flip it over and see what we find as well inside. The lid is pristine on the inside, as you would expect. Much better than the outside, actually. It's not dirty. There's a little bit of cobweb here. Everything looking good on the inside. And coming back to the outside, once again, you can see sort of that orange peel finish that we were talking about also on this lid as well. Back inside the box, another protective cardboard layer, and we're looking at the underside of the water pan. Let's get that out and take a look. This is an interesting packaging situation where they have enclosed the bowl upside down between two pieces of cardboard. There's this top piece and there's a bottom piece as well. And there are these tabs that stick up through the top piece. It looks like you just slide this off. Oh, it folds open. And there's your water pan. This is the original 1 gallon water pan, same one as I have in my 97 Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker. You can also see the orange peel finish. And this has some dust and maybe a little bit of mildew here, some cobwebs, but that's in good shape. There's no damage, well, until now. No damage to this water pan at all. Interesting choice of how to package that. That's kind of a complicated little sucker they did that with here. This is not how they did it later, 3 years or 4 years later. They had a much more simple approach for packing this in. Signs, by the way, of, again, more mold and mildew on this part of the packaging. And now our final stop on this adventure are the grates. And you can see that there are 2 cooking grates and 1 charcoal grate. Let me see if I can get them out without falling into the box. So this is typical of how Weber packs these grates. They put them in a stack with the cooking grate, top cooking grate on the bottom cooking grate on the top, and then sandwiched in between is the charcoal grate. And you'll notice, if you've got a newer Smoky Mountain Cooker, you'll notice that this bottom cooking grate has no handles. That was an added feature in 2013. And you'll notice that this charcoal grate has the infamous gaps on either side. This is how Weber did it back in the day, and the problem with this was that charcoal could go over this edge, even when, let me get the charcoal ring here. Even with the charcoal ring sitting on top, you have enough of a gap on either side that charcoal could fall through there, and that was kind of an annoyance for people. So in 2009, when Weber came out with the 22-inch smoker and redesigned the 18-inch smoker, they filled that gap with a little bar so that that little annoyance was eliminated. These grates do look very shiny to me. They do look like they may be nickel plated. I think Weber was still doing that back in these days of the 90s, but I'm not completely sure. If you have information on that you could share in a comment down below, I'd be interested to see what you think. But they do look like they may be the nickel plated from back in the day. And now that I have everything out of the box, me being the detail-oriented guy that I am, I wanted to take a look at the bottom of the box. The box itself has a part number, 44501. You can see the copper staples holding it together. There's 2 in the middle, 1 on each side. On this side, there's 2 in the middle, 1 on each side, the same part number. We also see the box certificate. This box had a burst test of 275 pounds per square inch. Limit size 90 inches, gross weight limit of 90 pounds. 2 other things that are more noticeable to me now that this box is upside down, I can see that there's some water staining around the bottom of this box. So, I understand this was in a basement. There must have been some water infiltration for sure. That probably contributes to the mold mildew situation inside the box. I also noticed that around the bottom, I hadn't seen that. It says Weber Stephen Products Company, Palatine, Illinois, 60067, printed in the good old US of A. Hey friends, thanks for sticking with me in this rather long video. I wanted to share a little bit of color commentary at the end of this video though about a conversation I had recently with a man I know named Gary Granzin. I met Gary back in 2008 when he was working at Weber in Illinois. I was invited in 2008 back to Weber headquarters to discuss with them the brand new 22-inch Smoky Mountain Cooker that was coming out for the 2009 model year. And at that time, Gary was in charge of packaging at Weber, and we were talking about the new packaging for that cooker and how it was being improved. If you want to learn more about my visit to Weber back in 2008, I'll put a link down in the description below. You can check it out. Gary worked at Weber from 1973 to 2019. He worked there for 46 years. In fact, he retired in 2019 on the very same day that he got hired back in 1973, which is kind of cool. He met his wife at Weber. She recently passed away, rest in peace. Gary had a long career at Weber. When he started, he said that there were about 100 people working 3 shifts a day, plus there were about 30 people working in the front office, so only about 130 people at Weber back in 1973. And he started on the assembly line. He quickly moved into a customer returns position where he processed all the returned grills that came back to the company. He created a quality control function for Weber when they didn't have one. Then he moved into the engineering team to implement their transition to a computerized inventory
system and bill of materials system. Then he moved into the purchasing department. He was in charge of buying maintenance items at first, but eventually his role grew to where he was buying roughly 70% of all the raw materials that Weber used in its manufacturing processes. And he did that for about 10 years. Then that role evolved into the acquisition of product packaging, where he worked with packaging manufacturers. He also developed a graphics production and printed materials department within Weber at a time when they didn't have one. So developing and printing the brochures, the owner's manuals, and things of that nature. And then finally, he went back to engineering, where he went into packaging development, and he established what he called a packaging engineering department in the last 10 years of his career. And that was the time at which he worked on developing the current Weber Smokey Mountain packaging that we have today and that I saw when I met him back in 2008. So I wanted to talk to Gary about this unique 8-sided box because it happened during his tenure there at Weber. And what he said to me, and I'm just going to refer to some notes that I took from our phone conversation. He said that he was in the purchasing department working with corrugated cardboard suppliers when that 8-sided box was developed. The company he worked with was called Stone Container, and one of their sales reps asked if there's anything new going on, any new projects. He was looking for work and order, obviously. And Gary showed him the new Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker in 1981. A whole new product category for Weber, a much larger product actually, since it had 3 pieces. Kind of a bigger package was required than a normal kettle, and quite different from a packaging perspective. So they decided they could do something really different in terms of the box design, and they could use the box as an advertising billboard. This is something that Mike Kempster, who was the executive vice president at Weber for many, many years, very prominent in the Weber company, he used to call the box the silent salesman in the retail store. This box had 8 sides. It could be used to tell the product story when there was nobody in the store to tell the story and really educate people about this new product category from Weber. So Gary and a rep from Stone Container worked on the design of this box. They also determined that another advantage of this design was that more boxes could be packed into a full shipping container or trailer load than you could with square boxes, just by the nature of that design. Almost kind of like a honeycomb design, how they fit together in a very efficient way. So once Gary and Stone Container had developed the prototype for this box, he brought it back to Weber to sell executives on the design and to get their approval, which he did get. He mentioned that during that time, 1981 to 83, there was also a transition within Weber for all their boxes to go from white cardboard packaging to brown craft boxes. He said that Mike Kempster used to say that Weber owns white boxes. It was kind of a distinctive feature of their packaging in stores, that they had white boxes. But there was kind of an environmental push and a movement to less processed packaging, more easily recycled packaging around that time. And so there was a decision made that they would move to a craft box. And this was for all of Weber's products in and around that time of 81 to 83. And that Weber Smokey Mountain got an 8-sided brown craft box with a large 4-color glued on, label on the side of that brown box. Gary said that back in those days, early 80s, the number of Weber Smokey Mountains made was relatively small. And when the sales started to really pick up in the mid-90s, there was a decision to switch to a really simplified square box. And you saw a picture of that box earlier in this video, the one that I had around 1997. That happened sometime between 93 and 97. Gary wasn't exactly sure, but somewhere in that time frame, the switch went from the 8-sided box to a regular 4-sided cardboard box. A couple of the things I wanted to mention just for your interest. At one point in the video, I kind of geeked out on this cardboard separator that sat over the cooker's lid to separate the middle cooking section and the charcoal ring from the lid. Gary said that separator is called a starburst, and it does look just like that, sort of. That piece is called a starburst. Another area where Gary could offer some insight was that I mentioned there were some handholds, 2 handholds in the box. Gary said that there was a point of contention about this within the design team. They never referred to them as handholds because they were not really strength tested in order to be legit handholds. What if they ripped, he said. So they never referred to them as handholds. They euphemistically called them QA access holes in case somebody from the quality assurance department wanted to check what was inside the box. They had an access hole. If you put your hand in there, he said, that was up to you. So that's a little interesting piece of inside baseball. You got a handhold, but it's not officially a handhold, and they're not encouraging anybody to use it as a handhold. And yet that's what everybody would think it is when they see it on the box. It's kind of a funny story. And finally, I mentioned in the video that I noticed there were 3 little dots on the bottom of the charcoal bowl, and I surmised that this was perhaps have something to do with how the bowl was set on top of something as it went through the firing process. Gary confirmed this fact for me. He said those are in fact contact points from a 3-pointed fixture that supported the bowl during the firing process of the porcelain finish. He said today the bowls are hung from one of the damper holes during firing, and that eliminates those 3 points of contact in the finish on the bottom of that old 1993 charcoal bowl. So anyway, I want to thank Gary Granzin very much for his insight into this. I really enjoyed talking to him and geeking out with him about product packaging. I think he enjoyed talking with me about it too. And just hope that you find some of that color commentary a little bit interesting as we conclude this video. Okay, well that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this somewhat. I mean, I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to things like this. I hope that you were able to geek out with me a little bit on this, what turns out to be a 1993 Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker, never used before, still in the box. Got a few blemishes, which I'm not totally psyched about, but it doesn't really matter since I don't intend to cook with it, and I mainly wanted it for the packaging anyway, so I'm happy with what I see in the box. Hope you enjoyed it. If you stuck along with me this far, please like and subscribe to my videos. It really does help other people find them. If you have any comments about the video, please put them down below. What you think about this cooker, whether you think I paid too much or too little or just right. Any comments about the cooker from this era, any of the questions you have. And as I mentioned, I will put links in the description down below on related topics on the virtual Weber bulletin board related to these old cookers and to the boxes and the packaging and the box art and how to determine the age of cookers like this and so on. So I thank you for watching. I appreciate you very much. Take care, everybody. Until next time, bye-bye.